welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, we're back out at Bonsai Acres. Welcome to Bonsai Acres. It's the 6th of May, and we had a really nice system come through yesterday where it was off and on rain, and today it's supposed to rain later this afternoon. There's a little lull. It's about 55 degrees, a little foggy, kind of misty out, and it's the annual planting of the trees out at Bonsai Acres. When I first come to Bonsai Acres, I'm always checking out the trees from previous plantings, walking through, seeing what's what, looking for winter damage, any winter dieback. Are there any fungus on the trees? This year, we're actually going to dig up a couple of trees just to see how the roots have progressed, and that first test of a tree in the ground for 3 years before we take it out, put it in a nursery pot, and see what we can do to bonsai that tree. Today we have some more Korean firs to put in the ground, and we also have some Canaan firs. Now the Canaans are really large this year, so it'll be very interesting to see how they take off, because in the past the Canaans have been really small, bushy-like, and slow to grow. The Koreans are still one of my favorites because they've been backbudding the most in my garden over at my house and here at Bonsai Acres. We had a pretty rough spring with the weather, up and down, 80s in April and freezing temperatures in April, and now spring has sprung and the birds are singing, everything's greening up massively, and the trees are getting ready to push out. This is such an exciting time of year for any bonsai enthusiast because there's so much to do with all the repotting, the planting I'm doing out here at Bonsai Acres. Got some helpers with me this year. Kale from the Minnesota Bonsai Society is going to help out. Very wonderful young man who is getting really into bonsai at such a young age. That's awesome to see. I hope he continues this hobby for the rest of his life. And then my son Toby, of course, hanging around with the auger, with the drone, some cool footage, and really making some good progress at Bonsai Acres. We've got mulch to put down for some of the maintenance. We want to make sure that our trees hold on to some of that moisture, so we're going to put some more fresh mulch around the trees as much as we can today. We'll see, weather permitting, how sloppy it gets. The rain should hold off until afternoon, so I think we're going to be okay. A big shout out to Neil Kruger, who lent us the auger again this year. Neil is the one who owns all this beautiful tree farm land where Bonsai Acres sits. And so we were able to quickly auger 40 holes in less than 15 minutes. Some of the ground is super soft because they tilled some of it. Some of it's the older ground and we got some tough spots. But that didn't take much time at all. So we've got 40 holes to put our trees in. Now I've got my recycled Tidy Cat buckets here because we are putting some wood. So one of the things that people talk about when you put trees in the ground or even in pots is if you want your roots to grow out in a 360-degree pattern and get that good radial pattern, you should put something flat underneath that root system, and then all the roots are going to grow out instead of down. Now, the struggle with these trees when they come from the tree farms, they're kind of more like plugs, and all the roots are growing down. And so I want to promote these roots this year to go out more. So all of these trees I did not do that to. So this year we cut out 40 of these wood planks from 2x4s. We're going to stick those into the hole, and we're going to make sure hopefully those roots go out and around instead of straight down. So in the future when we dig it up, hopefully we'll have a little bit better of a 360-degree pattern, and we can trim the roots from there as we dig them up. I've given Kale the job of putting all the wood blocks near all the holes now that they're drilled, and after that we'll start setting out some trees and see if we can get these in the ground. thing to do would be to just stuff these in the ground. Tuck the roots in, put some dirt around, put some mulch on here, and we're good to go. It's kind of what I did the last couple of years. But the more I've researched, the more I've heard about people having bonsai in the ground, is we want to try to control those roots as well. Now you might dig up these trees and then cut off some roots and put them right back in the ground. You might take your spade and just cut all the way around in case there's any roots growing too far so we can keep them narrow. You do that before you collect a tree sometimes. But one of the problems, one of the cons of getting some of these trees from the nurseries is they have this kind of plug feel to them. So this is not really one taproot. That's actually a whole bunch of roots that are kind of meshed together right now because of the way it was growing, where it was growing, and also shipping it to here from the Michigan area. And again, I'm in Minnesota. So these roots can be kind of slowly pulled apart a little bit. And I want to be careful not to damage the roots, but I don't want a plug in the ground that's going to go straight down. You know, we want no taproot per se, and we want a 360-degree pattern at some point. So as I dug through that little section right there, I'm able to get a flat tree now a little bit closer to where that root flare begins at the bottom of our tree, right? That Nabari section in the future. And so I can bend these roots up. Now, we didn't make the holes big enough to have some of these roots spread out, so I can cut some of these roots a little bit shorter, or we can kind of circle them around. So we'll try to get these in the hole, and we want to get that piece of wood in there. So here's our piece of wood, and if that sits on the piece of wood underground for about an inch all the way around the base of that tree trunk size, it's about a half-inch, quarter-inch trunk right now, the roots are all going to go outwards. I'm forcing them to go out instead of down. So no taproot anymore will go any further straight down, and that's our goal for today, is to get as many wood planks in there and as many of the roots flaring out as much as possible. And if they go out and down, that's not horrible, I don't think. We'd love to go straight out, but I have to dig much bigger holes, and we will do that with some of these holes today. So, time to get to work. Let's get to it. The thing we're going to do is, I'm going to move some earth around our hole. And here's what we're going to do. Our goal now is to put this piece of wood right there, just like that. And then the tree is going to sit. The tree is going to sit right on there. And so, right there. And then you see how the roots are all sprayed out like that? And it's on this level of the dirt that we just kind of took away. And now we can fill in some dirt around these roots. And we have ourselves a tree that there's roots below the dirt, but then the wood's down there, and all those roots were pretty wide, weren't they? Yeah. All these trees, man, they're straight down the ground. So this is going to be so. Yeah. Straight down. Yeah. So I think this is going to be so much better.
A lot easier for bonsai too.
Oh, and that's what we want. Now the other thing is, I planted this tree straight up. The other thing we can think about is we could plant every tree at an angle already, right? Make it already an informal upright, make it already slanted, because most people don't want to stick straight up and down tree unless it's a formal upright, which these trees, you could have a few, but we're going to put some at an angle too, so we're just going to actually plant them crooked on purpose. So then the sun, if they're angled this way, the sun's going to make them want to grow back up this way, right? Then we get some natural curve just from the sun doing its magic, right? So once we plant the tree and we have this here, this is why we have our pile right here now. We can give it a really good amount of mulch. So what we're doing, Kale and I have discovered that it's gonna work pretty decent. We're cutting down the soil around the holes that were pre-dug, deep enough where we know we're gonna get our roots in the ground. Now that I got this lower layer, now we put this wood block right here in this hole, sits down there just a little bit below the surface, and then we grab our tree. So here's our tree with a lot of roots, really nice. Now, this one does not have a super big plug because it's loosened up and it's opened up super nice for us. Sometimes from the nursery stocks, they're so tight here, you're gonna break roots. But look at how I can create our radial pattern of roots right now in the ground already. So we have about a 360-degree root flare already, and nothing's gonna grow straight down. They're hopefully gonna be growing over and down. And then we bring the soil in, cover this tree up, pack that down, and then we're ready for some mulch. Here we have a finished tree then. We've got our wood block in the hole. I've tamped down some dirt around it. I've got a nice mound of mulch here. And the mulch helps because it makes it easier to weed if weeds do come through here. And of course the mulch, just like sphagnum moss on the tops of our bonsai pots, is gonna keep the moisture down in the roots longer and not dry out the surface as much. And we should be in really good shape for these trees in the future. Every year when I'm out at the tree farm, cutting the grass, pulling the weeds, I get a little bit too excited with the lawnmower. And the lawnmower chops off the trees. I've only done it about 2 or 3 times. But just goes to show you, whether it's a deer chomping on the trees, a rabbit, voles, you know, the critter chops. Trees have a tendency to survive. So I'm happy to report this spring, look at this twin tree. I don't know what's below it as far as a single trunk, but there we have 2 trees growing out of the ground, 2 white pines with some really nice looking buds on there, both sides, looking really fantastic. So this is still alive. And if you put trees in the ground and chop them off, let them grow and chop them off, they're gonna thicken up and you're gonna have a really gnarly looking tree. Could be really cool in the end. We wrapped up most of our digging today and putting in trees, so it's time now to see if there's roots growing on these trees that have been in the ground for 3 years. So I dug around the outside. We're gonna kind of see now for the first time what these roots have done since we put it in the ground. This is one of my white pines. So coming out of the ground, I can't say that I'm too surprised. It's a nice, decent 360 root for the most part. What I like to see is there's mycorrhiza on here. There's all kinds of little of the white mycorrhiza on this tree, which is really nice, helping to provide nutrients for these pine trees. I've got 3 high roots that came with this tree early on. We'll just cut those off, and we've got a little bit of a nabari root base down here. I'm not going to bare root it any more than this. We've got some tangled roots in here that, like this one is like a loop. I don't know where it's going. I might try to untangle some of these. But we're going to put this in a pot. We're going to bring it home and nurture it at the house for a year or so and see how the transition from farm to the yard does. Let's get this in a pot. I've got the tree in a nursery pot, just with some of the earth soil from the farm here. We'll bring it home, maybe put some pumice in here, mix some pumice and dirt together for that first transition into bonsai soil. Maybe in a bonsai pot, not sure. This one's got some funky little curves up here from previous wiring. We might even cut this tree completely off and make this become the new leader right here. Beautiful branch, a lot of new buds on here. It's healthy, really good time to get this out of the ground and see if I can make it grow at home. So we'll put this in the van and we'll head home pretty soon. Well, that's going to wrap things up out at Bonsai Acres today. Can't thank Kale enough and Toby enough for being out here. Got the holes drilled. We got some trees planted, Canaans and the Korean firs. We got mulch put all around those, and then mulch on all the other trees too. So we had about 9-10 trips to the mulch bed, and the trees are looking good. A little revitalization with the new mulch. We're supposed to get rain and thunderstorms this afternoon, so hopefully that'll happen. Mother Nature, you never know. I've said that in past years, and then it didn't rain that next day. So we'll watch the weather closely, and if it doesn't rain in the next couple of days, I will be back out at the farm with buckets of water, and we'll make sure that they have some good moisture to get their start of growing off to a good start. I also had a couple of bristlecone pines that I had left over from a recent purchase. I put a couple in a couple of pots at the last workshop I was with Andrew Robson, but I saved a couple for the farm. People have told me that the bristlecone pines are slow growers, so I figured let's put a couple in the ground, get them thick and growing, and I'll have to watch those carefully too and make sure that those have some water because those roots were a little sparse as well. So a great day out at the farm. Love being out here. Again, thanks Toby, thanks Kale, fantastic. And yeah, it keeps growing. We've got 100+ trees, and we're gonna bring one home, the one we dug up today. So what a great day. Super fun to be out at the farm. So we got to wrap things up here, and we got to get some lunch. Yeah, Kale's hungry. I'm hungry. It's time for some food. So, hey, take care of you. Take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you all very soon on the next one.